Alex, you've had some extra time with the players in the last 10 days. Has it been good, and how productive has it been?
Yeah, I think it's been good, but it's not as productive as what it might seem for the outside, you know, because what you end up having is you end up 5 or 6 players away in international duty. You end up with maybe a couple that had been sort of carrying bruise and bumps and all the rest of it, so they need a bit of rest. So you end up normally with a training group of between 10 to 12, which is good in the sense in the fact that you can get some work into them, but doing 11v11 stuff, getting sort of real match play into them proves to be difficult. And to be fair, in terms of having the whole group available, arguably today is probably the first time that that's happened in the last sort of week and a half. So, but we've gave them some good work. I think there was some lads that need topped up. There was some lads that needed a little bit of in-house match sort of game time type thing. So we had a game last Saturday between ourselves just to top some of the lads up and get them prepared for the games that are coming up. So yeah, it was good, but as I say, you're always hungry for a bit more.
Never satisfied.
No.
When you look at the games coming up, you've got 10 games before the World Cup, but this next week is particularly intensive with the standard of teams you're playing against. Do you look at every game in isolation, or do you look at the 3 games and think, I might play that player there and that player there? Or
I don't think we've currently got the luxury of doing that, if I'm honest. I think if you've got a fully fit squad and they've been consecutively fit and you've managed to spread the minutes out across pre-season and different things and everybody's at similar stages, I think you can start to do that. I've done that in the past with groups that I've had. I think for us at the moment, we're literally going to the next game and going, right, who's available? How do we go about trying to win this game? You know, and that's the sort of pattern that it's taken so far. For instance, we go to Hull, win 3-0, do really well, and then we lose our 2 wing-backs the next game. So then we're back to the drawing board. We need to then try and figure out another solution. Yeah, so I think as far as we go just now, it's a case of prepare for the next game, and then we'll see who's available for Burnley after that.
Watford have changed the manager. Does that make it a little bit more difficult for you when you're planning to play against them, because you're not quite sure the formation they'll set up, or do you just go regardless?
No, I think it certainly has a bearing. It makes it a bit more loose. It makes it a bit more unpredictable for their point of view, in terms of they could rock up and play any formation. They could play players out of position that they haven't played there before. But I've played against Slav's teams quite a few times, you know, when he was at West Ham, when he was at West Brom. So yeah, I know Slav quite well. So it's but they've got good players. I mean, they can play a variety of different ways. They have played a variety of different ways. The last game they played was the first time this season they played a back 4. All the other times before that they played a back 3. So yeah, it really is in the balance in terms of what they do. So what we'll do is we'll prep both ways, in terms of whether it's a 3 or a 4, whether it's a 4-4-2, whether it's one up front. It doesn't make any difference. We know that there's enough foundations at the moment to understand the difference in terms of what that would look like for us.
Looking at their players, they've got some very good forwards. What do you expect from them? I know you can't predict the formations, but where do you see their biggest strengths coming from?
I think, well, arguably they've got a Premier League squad. If you look at them, you know, they've got power, they've got pace. They show up well in the stats in terms of 1-for-1 duels. Like you say, the forward players are extremely dangerous. You know, to go and get Keenan Davis, who helped Nottingham Forest out of the league last year, to have Sarr on one side, Sem on another side, João Pedro, I think he's just signed about an 8-year deal because he didn't move to, I think it was Everton, not long ago. So yeah, listen, they've got talented players, there's no doubts about that. But I think what it's shown this season is they're beatable. There's teams that have beat them this year. But I think we're certainly going to have to be at our best for that to be the case.
Already we've seen head coaches or managers, whatever term you want to use, under pressure. Obviously Watford are a case in point.
Are we ever not under pressure?
Well, you're smiling, but you know what I mean. There are situations where, take Rob Edwards at Watford, he's gone. They have this tendency to give people very little time. How difficult is it for you to blend? You want to do things for the long-term success of Stoke City Football Club, as presumably all previous managers have done.
Yeah.
But how difficult is it to blend that along with short-term results?
Yeah, but I think when you go into any job as a coach, as a manager nowadays, I think you understand that short-term results buy you time, and then by buying yourself time, by making sure you get enough results to be competitive, then it allows you to shape and transform, or I don't know, sort of bring along your style of play, your culture, your structure, all the bits. The simple fact is, but you don't win enough games, you won't have the opportunity to do that. What I do think is, however, I think there is certain clubs that you look at and they have and will and do give coaches time to try and sort of show what they can do, because let's be brutally honest, in football the majority of the time, not all the time, but the majority of the time, you get a job because it's not going well. You don't get a job because it's going great. So, I mean, some people land really fortunate in the fact they walk in somewhere where it's going well. That happens very few and far between. So yeah, so normally the jobs come up because there is an issue that needs resolving, and naturally issues sometimes take time. They don't resolve overnight. And
of course you've got a great ownership here that give people time, so you won't be going tomorrow.
But listen, that's one of the key facets for me coming here, you know, is the fact that I think, and I believe, certainly in my relationship with John so far and speaking to John, he's got how he wants his club to be, he's got how he wants his team to be, and we're both on the exact same page and we know what needs done.
This is the bit I hate asking you because I know you don't want to give anything away, but after the international break, how are we on the injury front?
Okay.
No, come on, give me a bit more than that.
But okay.
How's Jacob Brown doing?
Okay.
Okay, right. Joe Bursick came back from the under-23s, under 21s. Was that because of an injury, and do you think he'll be okay for the weekend?
No, unfortunately for Joe, Joe's dad's was unwell, and unfortunately he lost his dad in that period, so he got given time to come back. I think for Joe it's been a really difficult period recently. You know, I know his dad's been a big supporter and a big sort of source of, certainly a big pillar of strength for him in terms of belief and confidence, and obviously watching his career as he's progressed. So I think Joe just needed a bit of time, but he's been on the grass the last few days. He's and I think he's dead set on now going and obviously trying to make sure that he continues in the path that he's been on and progressing his career and kicking on. So yeah, it's been a difficult time for him and his family, and he just needed a bit of time. So yeah, that's been tough. And
Jordan Thompson went off with concussion. Is he able therefore to be considered for selection on Sunday?
We need to follow the concussion protocols.
Okay. And how far away are we from getting the supposed wing-backs back in the squad? I'm trying really hard here.
I know you are. Yeah, listen, we've got a few players that are not going to be available. We've got a few players now that hopefully are going to be in contention that haven't been. So yeah, we should be in hopefully a decent place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, you've already touched on, Slaven Bilic, obviously from his time in English football with the two clubs that you've already mentioned. He possibly hasn't had an awful lot of time to work with the team, so would you expect him to make any initial changes?
Yeah.
Style?
In terms of, I think certainly style-wise, yes. I think what he'll either do is he'll go in and he'll sort of change. He might not change the formation, but he'll have an idea of how he wants or how he thinks that formation should be played. And what he'll look at, in my opinion, I think Ange touched on it, he'll look at the front players he's got at his disposal, and I think what he'll do is try and come up with a creative way of getting the best out of them to try and obviously cause as much damage and score as many goals as they can, because they certainly have got quality, you know. So in Slav, he's got out this division before, he's managed at international level, he's managed in the Premier League, so he knows his stuff. So yeah, it won't take long for him to put his imprint on the team.
Because one of the factors in their game is the pace, and that's one of the big factors with their outlet, isn't it? The pace off the front.
Yeah, they've got some quick players. You know, Sarr arguably is certainly one of the quickest players in the league. You've got Sem off the other side, who's quick. João Pedro's probably more of a technician that plays in between the spaces. Keenan Davis is a good target man. So they've got good balance in terms of how they play. So yeah, that's our task, to try and obviously deal with that as best we can.
But you're going to the game with a solid foundation in terms of the way you can build now with this run, with games coming quickly on top of her, and you can set down a marker, can't you, really? I
think it's a good game for us in terms of, obviously, he'll be finding out about his players. What you always want to try and avoid is that little bounce that people talk about when somebody new comes in. It's strange how players find that extra motivation sometimes when somebody leaves, but it happens. We just need to make sure it doesn't happen to us.
And obviously you've already touched on the high way the management is going at the moment, but it's getting more often, isn't it? I mean, usually around about November managers start to fall by the wayside, but it's not at the end of September. We're into double figures. Are you surprised?
Yeah, I just think football's gone crazy in terms of expectation now. I mean, I don't know how you can put anybody in charge of any team, particularly if you've come down, right? But you've got a lot to contend with. Is you've got negative momentum for a start, so they're not in a good place mentally because they're used to losing games. You've got guys who don't want to play in the Championship because they deem themselves too good for that level. You've got guys on too much money who arguably you need to cash in on because you need to bring their wages down because you've come down out of the division, and then you give them 11 games for a manager. I'm talking about Rob Edwards, obviously, who came for League Two, and you give him 11 games. I don't get it. Do you know what I mean? So, but listen, I think Hull. I think I've lost a manager again today as well. Crazy.
How do you react then personally to criticism, and how because you've got your staff, you've got your players and all that. It's very difficult because you've got to manage that. How do you react then, Alex? Is it
criticism
difficult?
of who? Me? I get criticised all the time anyway. It won't make any difference. See if we win, I'll still get criticised. It doesn't make any difference. So there'll always be people that will criticise you. Do you know what I mean? That's just a fact. If you're in public eye, whatever you want to call it, you'll get criticised irrespective of what you do and how you do it. Do you know what I mean? That's just that. I just don't listen to it. I just drown out the noise, focus on my job, focus on the people that can make a difference, which is the players. And if you can try and keep the majority of your own fans happy, and the fact that they are happy with the product on the pitch and happy with the effort levels and happy with what they deem their club to, because your club symbolises something, doesn't it, for the supporters? That's what it should do. I mean, the supporters should come here and look at the team and go, yeah, that represents us. I mean, they die in the pitch for us, they'll give everything they've got, they don't leave anything at the door. That's what I want to try and bring to Stoke City, and see, providing you bring that, I think fans will support that. But criticism's part of the job, so I don't read too much into criticism at all. However, criticism's different when you then start getting people sacked regularly. Do you know what I mean? That's a different topic in my opinion.
Thank you.
Cheers.
It's cold outside. It's October the 1st tomorrow. You've got 10 games in 6 weeks, a game every 4 days or something like this. So you're going to need every player that you can probably get to get through that. And the player I'm obviously thinking about is Harry Souttar. Will he be in the mix for any of those 10 games?
Don't know yet. It's far too early to say. You sort of threw me by saying it's cold outside. What was that got to do with any of the rest of that?
Winter is here.
All right.
Winter is
not
coming.
if you're Scottish.
Oh,
I'll wear my
right.
shorts and t-shirt when I'm out in that weather.
Of
so
course.
yeah, it's all right for us. We're fine.
But 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
You'll want to continue with that, definitely, won't you?
Yeah, listen, it's a good basis to start from. You know, it makes us solid, and we have got guys in the team that can score a goal. I think we're dangerous for set plays. I think our attacking play will hopefully improve as we get players back, as we get a bit more time to do a bit more work. But yeah, I think the lads are in a good space. I think they look confident. They look as if they're enjoying their training. Their distances and intensity have been really, really good over the last week and a half. So yeah, I think everything's on a decent sort of curve, shall we say.
One player emerging that I'm not so familiar with on the bench, Matthew Baker. Can you tell us a bit about him?
Yeah, he's one of the younger lads. He's a centre back, and obviously we've been missing quite a lot of bodies. And what I always do is speak to the academy staff and say to them, right, who have you got that's done particularly well? Who have you got that deserves an opportunity and a chance? What I wouldn't do, and you get it quite a lot, and it really irritates me, is when you go to places and they put 5 guys on the bench and leave 2 spots free, as if to say, oh, look how hard this is for me because I haven't got enough first team players. I don't understand why you wouldn't give an opportunity to a young lad to put him on the bench and give him an opportunity to sample what it feels like and what it tastes like to be part of the first team and be on the bench and be involved. I would always go down that route, you know, and young Matthew's obviously done well with the 20s, I think they call it now. They've changed it from 23s to 21s to 20s now. So he's done well there, and he's come up and he's been involved in the first team.